Yeah, so when you said, right, like you were in New York and came back to Manipur, from what I am seeing, all this work were done when you came back to Manipur, right? But was that planned or it just happened because you were in Manipur? And why did you come back from New York and how all this project started?
It was very much planned. And it was because my mother was going through a rough patch in her life and wanted to get back into full-scale writing. And we had traveled to Java together, to Indonesia together, to Java and to
Oh,
Bali.
okay.
Yes, I took her there, and it was a wonderful experience for her because uh, the person who inspired her the most, Rabindranath Tagore, apparently went to Indonesia every year, and he
Okay.
loved Java. So everywhere she went, she saw the similarities between Java and Bali and Manipur. And I used to tell her, like, why do you keep talking about Manipur all the time? When we are here in Java, we're going to Solo, we're going to Yogyakarta, we're going to Bali and Ubud and all that. But her lens was completely through Manipur, everything. Just the dances,
I
the
see.
similarity, the sarongs, the Lesavis over there and the Lesavis over here,
Ah,
the way they wore their panics and the way they wore their sarongs, and so it was instructive to see her look at culture and the world through a very, very Manipuri lens. And I had been away for almost 20 years at that time, as a
which
big
year
chunk.
was this when you went?
This was in 2000. I was doing two seminars on documentary film and culture in Java, one in Jakarta and one in Yogyakarta, sponsored by the Ford Foundation. So I had taken a few filmmakers there, and I thought my mother, being a screenwriter and having worked in film, would also enjoy that. I had no idea that she would love Java so much. It's one of those unwritten books that she said she wanted to write an essay called The Island of Vishwakarma, which is her
Mm,
experience in Bali. All the carving, all the woodwork, all the bamboo work, the stone masonry that amazed her. So, so that was very instructive. And then in 2001, something called 9/11 happened, which
mm,
completely ended all our lives. And since I was, you know, basically a 5-minute walk from, I was living in South Street in the financial district, in the fish market, in a loft above the fish market on the Fulton Fish Market, and when 9/11 happened. And my office was only about, what, 20, maybe 20, 30 meters away from World Trade Center number 5. So we were in this epicenter of this thing that happened that upended all our lives. And following that, my father died. My father was a surgeon. He was the medical director of the state, a very highly regarded and professional doctor in Manipur, and Manipur's first FRCS from Britain and so on. And he died. And I thought, well, there are only 2 years difference between my father and my mother. So
mm.
my mother is also approaching the end of her life at some point. And so I decided that I wanted to spend some time with her, get her back to publishing books, and to help get her life back together. And so I decided that I would do that on a personal, familial level. But also, I realized that of all the cultures that I've been working with, the dozen cultures that I've been presenting and investigating in New York and in the rest of America, because my exhibitions is to travel to about 30 different cities all across the United States and to other countries as well. The only culture that I have not really approached from my work angle and from my work interest was actually Manipur. So I
Mm.
decided to make Manipur a project that I wanted to investigate this culture in the same way that I had looked into Chinese culture after the Gang of Four had fallen and so on. Looking at the cultural evolution after 20 years, So that kind of thing I had been doing with other countries in Asia and also including India. But the only culture I had not touched was my own, which is Manipur. And I felt that I was so privileged that I was, by a stroke of good fortune, was the son of MK Binodini Devi. And I'd kept in touch with her, and people always wondered how come I speak Manipuri well still. I said, no, I'm the son of a writer, and we always talk all the time. And I'm also, as you can see, I'm a very talkative and talky person, verbal person. So I was kind of thinking that maybe I should look into Manipur a little bit more. And that's what led me to do something called the Manipur Field Trip in 2004. I was an advisor to a Rockefeller institution called the Asian Cultural Council, and I urged them to give me a grant to take some American artists to Manipur. I wanted to see Manipur through their eyes. In fact, I have a funny story. I have a Japanese American friend called Yoshiko Chuma, and I brought her here. She's a choreographer and a dance performer, and she has a dance company in New York, very avant garde, very experimental. And I didn't tell her that Manipur had dance. I didn't tell her that Manipur had the Japanese soldiers coming here to fight. So she goes back, and I stayed behind because I have to put up new curtains for my mom and all that kind of stuff that all children do. I'm sure you do it when you come and you visit your mother. You look after your parents to see what is missing and what can be improved. She goes back and tells this dance teacher, professor in NYU from India, she says, "Did you know that Manipur has dance?" And the professor said, "So what are you talking about, Yoshi? Of course it has dance. It has one of the 4 classical forms of dance in India." So she says, "Why didn't you tell me this, Somi?" I said, "Well, I wanted to see dance through your eyes. I didn't want to put any preconceptions," which is a lesson I learned from the Flaherty Film Seminar discussions. I didn't want to put any preconceptions in your head. I wanted to have you experience dance. And what she did is what I'm really interested in. And that is when I put her in touch with a dance company here, run by a lady called Rase, Ariban Rase, who had a troupe of really high performing artists. They tour internationally right now and nationally. Um, I was attending the rehearsals, and for the first time, these classically trained dancers were asked, "Do you like to wear your hair like this? Can you dance with music?" Now, this is an experimental avant-garde performance artist from dancer from New York, from the East Village. You can't get more cutting edge than that in the world, right? And she posed questions to the dancers themselves. In a culture where classical forms are taught in a very strict manner, this is the way this is the way you stand, this is the music you perform to, this is the way you wear your hair. And she was the first one who actually asked the dancers themselves, "How do you feel about this? Are you comfortable wearing just a t-shirt?" And the girls said, "Oh no, we have to wear a P and all that." "Okay, can't you wear your P like this? Can you dance without rhythm? Can you dance without drumming? Can you dance without music?" Now, these are all challenges to a Manipuri classical dancer, highly trained in a canon that's been established for generations, in a very high art form, and translating it into a performance that is avant-garde, and which was presented, by the way, with projections on their bodies and all that, of footage from New York and footage from Europe, and short films, which were projected on their faces and their bodies. Before she left, she did a workshop, and she presented at Kalimai Temple at the mantle. Now that's the kind of interactivity of cultures, of taking what is the finest in New York, what is the finest by extension in the world, and what is the finest in new thinking about art forms, and putting it in juxtaposition with a highly insular culture that was not even visited by people at that time. This is 2004, and asking them to re-look at their own art forms in a way that they were not using to. So the juxtaposition of the highly avant-garde and cutting edge in the world with the very insular, very orthodox, very conventional, highly trained, um, highly elevated art form like Manipuri dance was something that was entrancing. Because at
Wow.
that time, that first time we came, Tamu Ibobi, who was the chief minister of Manipur at the time, we were the first group that came like this. And I got notes from the American ambassador saying, "Why are you taking these people to this dangerous place in Manipur?" We were given armed escorts, two
Yeah.
jeeps. Wherever we went, there was one in front and one in the back. There were no restaurants, there were no classic hotel, nothing at that point. And so that made me look at Manipur through the eyes of American artists. We had a museum curator, we had a theater director, this dancer, film producers, film directors coming in, and each of them did something. So I'm very much into getting people interact with Manipur, trying to bring out the best in Manipur to meet with the best in the West, in the rest of the world, and see what happens. It's basically my planned return to Manipur is an extension of that. It's basically also an investigation into who I am and what does Manipur mean to me, and what does it mean to me that I've lived abroad for more than half my life, and I've done all my work over there, and I come here. Then how do I look at Manipur? How do I see what are the best things about Manipur that we can talk to? Or can we conceive of a Manipur that can interact with the rest of the world on Manipuri terms? And for that, we have to know what Manipuri culture is, and that's what's leading me to conservation. And I'm very fortunate that I'm uniquely placed to do this because of Binodini, because of what she did with culture, what she did with conservation, what she did with dance, and what she did with literature and film. So I'm a very, very fortunate, blessed, and privileged person in that aspect. So it's been a wonderful journey that I'm still on. And every day I discover new things about Manipur that entrance me.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting, right? Like, I feel like seeing the footage.